All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's great to see you. Welcome to junior night. Yeah, you give yourselves a round of applause, particularly students. This is beginning of the third quarter, so I know you just had a very challenging second quarter. Parents, for having to support them, give yourselves a round of applause for sure. How many, for families, how many of you, this is your second time going through the post-secondary process? All right, good number. So for families, this is your first time. Those are the people to certainly reach out to, and I'm sure they will tell you that the second time their goal is to be less stressed than the first time. And I understand that this process can be extremely, it can be stressful. I do believe that you're in the right place with the right people to help you walk through this process so that you are informed, that you feel like you get the support that you need, and hopefully we can help you to see that it doesn't have to be as stressful as maybe we make it out to be or seem to be. I'm a parent of a 10th grader, not here, because I like to say that I don't want her to ruin my reputation and embarrass me. But we've started to have very low-key conversations about what she wants to do in her life. And there have been moments where it's been really enjoyable, where it's on her terms and it's very big picture, and when it's right for them as opposed to right for me. I'm reading, because of that, I'm reading a book, partially because this is interesting to me in my job, but also my personal life. It's called Dream School by Jeff Saligo. And it's a book written for parents. And it's about that there is no such thing as a dream school, and that really it's about broadening our understanding to see that there are so many different colleges and post-secondary options for students. Sometimes we have such tunnel vision of this is exactly where I want to go, what the kind of school that I want to look at. And the more that we broaden our perspective and see options that we may not have considered, you may see some really amazing things. I've found it to be very readable and really interesting. This has been a fantastic year for the school. Things are going really, really well. I'm really proud of our students. I'm particularly proud of this class for their leadership. It's really hard to think that at the end of sophomore year, you are halfway done with high school. We start that transition to start to think about what life is like after schooling for you. And I've just been really proud about how this class has really stepped up to the task, how they have seen themselves as wanting to really invest in their high school years. They're thinking about what is their legacy as a class, but also they are starting to think about what is next. I do want to highlight just a couple of events for you, and then I'm going to pass the microphone. One is that as our students are thinking about or starting to drive, as they are starting to make independent decisions, we have a really cool book club for parents and for staff. It's next Wednesday. The book just escaped me. Who remembers what it's called? Culpability. Thank you very much. This book, Culpability, which is written about, in short, a family of 5 is in a car. The teenager is driving the car. It's an autonomous car. It gets into an accident. The people in the other car die. And the question is, who's responsible? It's really interesting if you are if you live with teenagers, you live with children, particularly, and for people who work with teenagers, about the way in which technology is shaping their lives, shaping our lives, the kind of legal questions, but also the kind of social and emotional questions, developmental questions that surround it. It's a very well written. It is very accessible. And so we would love for you to join us next Wednesday night. I just sent an email about that this morning. Second is tomorrow is the Just Think Expo. and it is an event for teenagers during the day. It is a way to show them all of the different resources that exist in the greater Boston area and in Newton to support them for all of their wellness needs, whether it is for support, whether it is for learning or understanding. It's been going on for about 15 years. This is a very student-friendly event. We really want to encourage parents to encourage your kids to go because it's opt-in. It's during lunches, and so if you could just encourage them to engage, to meet some of the different some of the different tables, people are there. I will say this: I'm going to be writing something soon on this topic. Is that over the last few months, and it included last year as well, we've had several incidents that we are aware of teenagers and substance use, drinking, marijuana that we are aware of, and the ramifications of students using those things. And it's something that's we're really concerned about. We are hearing of stories where students are, potentially lives are in danger, and there's abuse going on there. And so we want to talk to you about it. We want to engage in some conversations with you about it. We know it's a community topic. It's not just a school topic, but it is a community topic we want to talk about. The Just Think Expo is a good place to start. And so I would just say, regardless of what is going on in your social world for your teenager, if parents can encourage their kids to go, we think this is a good first step for kids to be able to engage and see what's available to them. And so more to come on this topic. Lastly, is I will say that I really believe that our counseling department that represents our school counselors and our college and career counselors are the best in the business. They have really done a great job over the years thinking through this event. This is our kickoff to the post-secondary process at our school, and it's had multiple iterations, and I think by far the one that you're about to experience is the best. What I saw last year, it was fantastic. The panel that is answering your questions, that is helping you to see some of the things to be thinking about. I was amazed by the level of information that was shared at tonight's event. The best message that I've heard through this event is about how do you have those conversations with your teenagers about this process. That certainly to do it on their time, to think about, there is a calendar to this, and so certainly we can understand as adults that we want to help them move along, but they also need to do it at their pace. And so thinking about, is there once a week when you're going to have a time to talk to them? And I'm sure you're going to hear that several times today about how you sort of calendar those meetings with your child. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the microphone to your House Dean, Scott Heslin. Thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Turner. I really need to stop sharing my speeches with Henry before these nights because he says everything that I was about to say. So I'll try to keep it quick, but a lot of the same things. The class of 2027 has been awesome. Been together for 2.5 years, and obviously the amount of growth in those 2.5 years has been quite exceptional. Everything that I was planning on talking about tonight and is going to go into the rest of the agenda for tonight is really about decision making. I sent a Parent Square message home today and to kids, and I hope you guys have had the time to look at it. If not, please check it out, look at it together. There's 3 main things that I covered in it. 2 of them are about academic dishonesty and something that we're calling forgery. It's about the Google form when kids are going to be absent from school. A lot of students have been using it on their own without parent permission. Obviously not okay. But the theme of decision making here is a lot of the conversations that I've been having with kids is more around why they're doing things like the Google form or why the academic dishonesty. it's very rare that somebody's doing it just because they're being lazy and want to take a shortcut. A lot of it is because they're feeling stressed about certain things, trying to take a shortcut to get the assignment done, to get the best grade they can. And with that, obviously, comes consequences that could have ramifications down the road. So a big theme, and kids, you'll hear it tonight too, is like, just get the support. There's lots of support in the building, from teachers to myself to the counselors that you're going to hear from. So a lot of the things about decision making, you have a lot of control over what can happen in the next 18 months as students here. And if you're not sure what to do, make sure you're talking with your folks at home, talking to people here at school, so we can help guide you there. The other thing I just put in it, just a quick shout out, is the WIN advisory. Starting to earn credits. Starting tomorrow is our first WIN block of term 3, and then advisory, our first advisory is next Monday, but students are going to get credits for attending those blocks. As far as what you students have to do in those blocks, not much different than you've done this year. Just make sure you're attending it. We, as an administration and part of our academic standards, just wanted to make sure that you are being rewarded for good attendance and doing what you need to do in those blocks. So make sure you're keeping up with that stuff. The substance use that Henry talked about really quickly, I know I hate talking about COVID as much as the next person, but when COVID did hit, we saw a drop in a lot of the issues because kids just weren't going out as much. They weren't doing social things. And I think over the last few years, we're starting to see it ramp up again. Getting some more police reports after weekends of parties, hearing kids talk in schools just about vaping and drugs, alcohol use. And again, it's just something, make sure you guys are talking at home with your parents if you have questions. Parents, check on your kids. And again, I know kids aren't going out there thinking they're just going to do this, get away with it, and everything's going to be perfect. They might not have that on the forefront of their mind, but I think it's deep in the back of their brains that everything's going to work out for them. And then kids, obviously, when kids are caught, there are consequences for it. But more importantly, we just want everybody to be healthy and make sure you're being safe. So one more thing, Beth. So the other thing I just put, obviously we're in our second half now of senior year, and time is flying, and I know a lot of kids I've been talking to in the halls are feeling like the pace is picking up, and it's going to go quick. And I think one thing that we just have to keep in mind, you're going to feel nervous sometimes or anxious. Time's closing. What am I going to do after high school? How am I going to get there? You're feeling just like every other kid. Parents, you're feeling like other parents that are also thinking the same thing. That's what tonight's kind of a kickoff for. This is my third class as dean, so I've worked with, I'm guessing, around 1,600 kids. The group of people you're going to meet tonight and talk through the process and get it going is top notch. So there's plenty of support here. Any kind of questions that you might have, make sure you're just reaching out to somebody at the school. Students, since you're here, it's not too late to either improve on grades or improve on your resumes, joining a club, getting a job, volunteering. A lot of kids say, well, all the other kids are doing this, I haven't done anything, so what am I going to do? Start doing something now. All right, so it's definitely not too late to get going. It's the right time, and I'm just really excited to hear from what our department has, and like I said, they're top-notch. So I'll pass it over to Beth Swiderskis, in charge of our counseling department. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Henry. Okay, to follow up on the drugs and alcohol lesson, now we're going to start into something else. But thank you for that. Okay, so now the slides are going to commence. This is when the party's going to start, all right? So I first need everybody to take a deep breath. Take another one. Because it's all going to be okay. I promise. And we got you, all right? We got this. So, the thing is that I know that Henry had asked, how many people are going through this the first time? How many people are going through this the last or anywhere in between? The fact of the matter is our counseling team, we go through it every year. And so we kind of, in keeping up with all the things that may change through the years, because certainly, thinking about the future and career aspirations and college applications has changed a bit. But we do everything in our power to make sure that we know and keeping up with the trends and the changes and all of that so that we have the most up-to-date information for everybody. The The thing is that a lot of tonight is going to be about some of the processes that have to happen when applying to college. We recognize every single individual path that a student will choose to take, and that is not college. That can be, or two-year college, that can be a gap year. Working, employment, the military, continuing to educationally train themselves in certain trades. And so we just want to make sure that we want to be as inclusive as possible and not say, oh, this is not for my kid or anything like that. That is not what we're about. But we also know that a good amount and a good majority do go on to some form of secondary education. So we just want to make sure and put that out there. What we've also done is that, you know, in the program that we put out and sent to everybody, it had all the contact information. There's that whole other second page and a half of links about all the various ways that you can also be very helpful in this future planning process. So, well, it can be overwhelming. We want you to just make sure that you do feel that there's confidence in the type of information and resources that we can present to you tonight and beyond. So it's a ride, so hold on. So a lot of this is like, where do we begin? Because even if you've been through this before, you know, with older siblings and older children, everyone is a different person. So what you thought your path was when you were navigating it with somebody else in your family can be completely different now that someone else is in that driver's seat, all right? So that being said, we also want to get to the point where maybe it's like some pause and reflect a bit and really think about some of these questions. And these are for our students, about what do they want to get out of? What are their goals and values with respect to where they want to be and what they want to do when they grow up, even though they don't have to know right about now anyway. If it is about college, you know, where would they like to go? What do they think that they want to study? What do they want to learn? And it's really reflecting like the kind of learner that they are. The type of people that they would like to be involved with, whether it's on campus, and having a balance, different types of activities. These are all these questions to kind of start thinking about, and that way to really reflect. And we call this junior year a real time to reflect. Like freshman year, you're coming in and you don't even know what high school is like. Sophomore year is a little more about exploration, about the different things and who they are. And really, this is kind of the time for independence for our juniors to kind of hone in on the types of things that they're looking for of their level of interest. And do you love that last bullet? How involved do I want my parents and guardians to be in this process? Well, those are going to be the types of conversations that you're going to have at home. And then we encourage our parents and guardians and our families to also think about what this means for them. What are your hopes and dreams for your children or those you are in charge of? What kind of campus and environment? What's too far? What's too close? We also have to take into consideration some financial considerations as well. Any constraints in this process and how to navigate all of that. And then also how involved do as parents and guardians want to be in this process as well. So it really takes communication, and that's where the thing is about how to make sure that you're all on the same page. And then there's the developmental considerations, because you wouldn't have any of that without, you know, counseling, you know, putting a little 2 cents in from a psychological standpoint. So like I was saying before, junior year is incredibly exciting. It is an increased year of independence. And at times it can bring some tension, because at times they can feel like a little bit anxious or a little bit nervous, or this is what I want to do and that's about it. So it's really the encouragement of knowing to be there for our children and our students and know when to like step in and know when to take a step back. What we value here is that we do feel that there is a school or an employment or a landing pad for every single student. And it may look very different from one student to the next, and that's what we encourage. So we want to make sure that there's no one right perfect school like Henry had talked about before. It really has to be the right fit for the student. And what we see that when it's symbiotic and everybody is agreeing to say and accepting those types of decisions and choices that a student is making, that's where this process can not only go smooth, but it can be really exciting. You know, thinking about that next level in your lives and what that's going to look like and what it's going to feel like, you know, a year from now. And then kind of asked about juniors, like what do they, really want from their parents and guardians in this process? Like I said, support when they really need it and ask for it, and acceptance of their choices. And Henry's not wrong. That is a piece of advice I give every year too. Like, you decide on a Sunday night for a half hour or an hour, that's your college talk time. That's your career focus time. Don't go out of those boundaries. Save it. Take your notes during the week. But make sure you come back to it with an open mind, open hearts, and you get to the point that you can have some really good conversations about the next steps or where to go in this process. A lot of tonight, we're going to reveal what our resources are. And they're going to come in many different forms. Some human, some electronic, even some hard copy. And we just want to make sure that you're aware of what these are. Now, there have been some Parent Square messages already about gearing up for this night, links to the various types of things we have, but we want to make sure, like, sometimes repeating things is not such a bad thing to do. And by the way, this slide deck will be shared with everybody. So no need to record, take notes, anything like that. You're going to get this, and there are links that are going to be linkable and clickable. So you just sit back, relax, and let us do the work for you for this evening. One of the things that we talked about, where's Jen Moeller? You here, Jen? This college planning guide, right? This was something, a labor of love. We've been doing this since 2014, maybe the first issue. And it's soup to nuts. And I'm just opening that up. And I don't know if anybody, have you heard of this college planning guide? Anybody? All right, well, your quiz, your homework for all of you, is by the next time that we meet, you're all going to have your hands up and say, oh my gosh, what a compendium of information that is so incredibly helpful. So there are chapters and chapters dedicated to this whole process and everything. It's on the Newton North website, in the counseling department under College and Career Center, and you could click on any particular chapter and it is there for you to read when you're ready. It's not meant to be read from, first chapter to the end, and it has a lot of appendices and things like that. So it's just really taking it to the certain level of when you're ready to read something like this. And I hope I didn't screw up where I'm supposed to go back to. Anybody see where I go back to? Hold a moment. I gotta go back. What did it take me off? Oh, hello. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you. So, this next document, are you gonna be talking about this, Jen, or am I talking about for you? I'm okay to do this, right? What? Oh, okay, you have it. Oh, good. Jen's going to be talking about the Google Doc that is going to be a fantastic thing for you, the class of 2027 from the College Career Center. We also have this junior planning timeline that we shared with everybody. We're going to go over SCORE in a little bit. That's how we think we pronounce it, SCOIR, SCORE. The other resources we have, our juniors are going to be meeting individually with their school counselors. Then starting today, juniors can meet with one of the college and career counselors, because that season starts in the spring of their second semester of junior year, all the way into the fall of their senior year, and you'll hear more about that. We have college admission rep visits within, also coordinated with our College and Career Center, and there's websites and Instagram pages. These are just a sampling of the resources that we provide for all of our folks around here. Okay, SCORE. Has anybody heard of SCORE? Or been on it all? Okay, a couple, that's good, that's not bad. No judgment, no pressure if you haven't, that's okay. It will become a little bit more familiar to you as we move through the year. So it is Newton Public Schools. We got this program. It used to be Naviance a long time ago, and then we switched to another program. We felt it was pretty user-friendly, and that had features that are really just kind of robust, and we've been pretty happy with it. I think it's our third year going into this using SCORE. Students have their own account. They can invite their parents and guardians to join in that account, so families can see what their students are doing in their accounts and adding colleges and doing career interest inventories just to see what that's all about. It does list, for example, career interest inventory. So there is one that takes about 5 minutes, and it can be done over and over and over again. And there's another called Principles U. It is a character assessment. And there's certain domains that when a student for about 30 or 40 minutes takes this, and it really takes into consideration their likes, their preferences, the things they never want to do, and it really looks at what their personality may really be aligned with, the types of careers and possible majors down the road as well. So it's actually really cool. It's a very comprehensive report that they get and that is stored in SCORE. The SCORE has a drive, and we attach all different types of things, such as the resources, a few of them that we're talking about tonight. And every student's account has a drive to it. And then there's some introductory videos and instructions. So this is just the launching party. And then we get to the point, eventually, SCORE will be the delivery system to send transcripts, materials, letters of recommendation, that kind of thing. We're not ready for that yet. You're just at the point of really looking and exploring careers, colleges, and things you want to hold into your account, searches galore, and then from there, it'll go into columns when it comes to about following the schools, applying, and things like that. So it's really, like I said, user-friendly, and we've been really happy with it, and it can send messages and setting up college visits as well. Okay, I'm going to shift a bit. So now that you're second semester juniors and we have grades due next Monday, which is January 26th, this is going to be the first time also that our juniors will get a GPA, and I'll talk about that in a second. So what I want you to know is what we eventually will send, and I talked about a transcript. It's all the classes that students have taken at Newton North in 9th, 10th, and 11th grades. For students who have transferred in, it'll also show transfer amount of credit, and then that previous school's transcript will also be attached. So it'll be that school transcript plus with Newton North's, and that goes to employers and colleges and that kind of thing. Each of the years, and I'm going to show you a sample transcript, and if anybody gets the who the student is, you'd get a lofter. All right, does anybody know that name right there? Can you see that? Anybody know what that reference is from? Greg Brady? Remember? Brady Bunch, that's right. Some of our young'uns don't know about that too much. So what you see looks nice and fancy, right? Name, address, all of that. And as you can see, we have 9th grade course numbers, courses, levels are included in every title, final grade, and credits earned for every single year that they're building upon it, okay? Then up including, now what's going to happen for 11th grade, they'll see the courses, course numbers, all of that, and then they'll see, eventually it's like the first term grade, second term grade. But the final grade only shows in each of the years. So basically, PS to our students, if you need 4 terms to get the best grades possible, you got 4 chances, okay? So that's what the colleges are going to see for those first 3 years. Then eventually when it comes into senior year, then we're going to talk about first and second term grades get sent, okay? So I just wanted to make sure that people knew what the transcript looks like. It gives us the code of what the curriculum level of the classes are, and it will give a grade point average. Okay, out of a 4.0. And what our grading system is, A through F, that kind of thing. And then these fancy schmancy seals can also be applied, and hopefully some of our juniors and families are familiar. There's information that we sent out regarding our seals of biliteracy, also with theater and the fine performing arts, civic action, social justice, and they can go right on. Look how pretty those icons are on that transcript. All right, so any questions about that, you can certainly ask your counselor, and also it has links to the people who run these programs. And then you have that nice signature of Henry Turner's, and that's pretty much, we have actually been told by colleges that is a very clear transcript. They really appreciate it. It's not a lot of bells and whistles, but it really gets to the core of what a student has done here at Newton North High School. Okay? See, I'm going right back to that. Did that. All right. And so the grade point average at this point will be final grades from those 9th grade, 10th grade, and half-year classes into 11th grade. And then once we get to that point, then juniors it'll be updated into Aspen, and then students will be able to access those. And then there's also, if anybody ever wants to do the math and try to calculate their GPA, you are more than welcome to. We're not doing that tonight. I'm telling you that right now. And so that's just kind of like what I wanted to show about kind of what eventually that transcript's going to look like, okay? All right, now, this thing called standardized testing. Some of our students may be, really actively engaged, and others like, I don't want to go anywhere near it, and that's okay. So we really are, when it comes to SAT and ACTs, every college, if they require them, will accept either one. And there are still many, many colleges that are test optional. And the way we look at it, if a student has some skills and they're good at test taking, and we also think it's a rite of passage, go for it. Take these tests, and then at the end of the day, depending upon the scores, if they're within the range of the colleges that you're applying to, send them off. Colleges will super score. If you have a certain score that you took one in May and you're going to take another one later on in June or in the fall of September, and you have a higher score, let's say in English and a higher score in math in 2 different administrations, send them both. That's super scoring. You do not get discounted because you have a lower score in one of the other scores that come out. And so this really comes down to the fact of what is a preference. Some of our students had taken the pre-ACT as sophomores. Maybe some of those did those, so that is a practice. Some took the PSAT, that was earlier in October. And so those are practice as well. So students are gearing up this spring to think about when, if not already, thinking about when to take these tests. Also, for any students, if English is not their first language, there's opportunities with the TOEFL and Duolingo to make sure that they're also being able to get at what is the mastery of the information, so that is not a barrier to when they're applying to college as well. We've also sent out what the college admission test dates are to students. We had sent that out in a number of emails, and you'll see, so for the remainder of the year, there's March 14th, May 2nd, June 6th, and then it starts up again when it comes into next August, September. It's like almost every month. An ACT and an SAT will never be on the same day, okay? They're in competition. But we have had times that students, they may decide to take both. Now, we don't want a student taking a test every single weekend, and that's no way to live, right? However, we want to make sure that you have what you need in plenty of time so when you register. And when you register for these tests, it's not through Newton North High School. It is through the actual websites. And again, this slide will be on there so people are going to be able to look and to see when to take them. Another thing about this is that there are fee waivers, fee reduction vouchers for any students and families feel that they're eligible. You just talk to your school counselor and we'll help you navigate that process. We never want any financial limitation to be a barrier to or access to any of the opportunities and the events that a student should be taking within this process. Test accommodations. If a student is on an active IEP or 504 plan, they may be eligible for test accommodations on the standardized SAT or ACT. It's not 100% guaranteed, and your school counselor can help you also navigate that process as well. And then we always put up what, sorry, getting ahead of myself. We put up there's also hundreds and hundreds of test optional schools, and they are serious about that. They're not trying to trick us. They're like, no, if you're not going to send in your test, it's not going to discount you. You're going to be just fine depending upon what those schools are looking for. We know how wonderful our students are, and that's what they're going to be putting forward, and we feel really great about that. And those thinking about the military or the armed services, the ASVAB is their aptitude battery test, and that's given at Newton North every single year, coordinated by one of our former counselors, Larry Allen, and we'll make sure that that gets out. I think we already had that earlier in the year, if I'm not mistaken. Look at me, I'm getting off this. So Don't you worry. I know we're going through a lot of stuff and it can feel overwhelming, but you'll get this, you'll digest it, and then each piece of it, as you see fit, then ask away whatever questions that you have, okay? Okay, so we are now moving on. You're going to hear other people talk because you could be sick of me talking right about now. I may have to interject a little bit in a little later, but I'm going to hand it over to Miss Sarah Juarez, who is one of our school counselors. Welcome, Sarah.
Great job.
Okay, you got that.
I got it. Hi, everyone. Sarah Juarez, school counselor. Here to just talk a little bit about our role and responsibilities as school counselors in this transition process. So first and foremost is really going to be individual meetings with students. This is really our entry point into understanding a student's interests and goals for what comes after high school. Again, whether that be college, career, work, gap year, etc. In those conversations, we're really trying to dig deep and help students imagine what that pathway might look like, the steps involved, navigating any intricacies that we can anticipate. An intricacy that sometimes does come up is the standardized testing, which you guys just sort of heard all about, but will definitely help students think through, like, if they really need to test, if so, which one, when to test, requesting accommodations, that sort of little nitty-gritty. We also, for every student on our caseload, will write a counselor statement. And what that essentially is a letter to admissions panels or employers that introduce a student. So of course, in those letters, we talk about their academic profiles, their extracurriculars, but I think we also are very diligent in taking the time to really take the reader through maybe the highs and lows of a student's experience in high school, their interests, their traits, their characteristics, because we really are in those statements trying to capture who this student is at their essence. That's not always easily gleaned from a transcript and a resume alone. SCORE, we all just heard about SCORE as well. We spend a lot of time one-on-one with students in SCORE, looking at all the career inventories and the college search process. There's a lot in SCORE. Sometimes like tricky technological difficulties come up. We're there to troubleshoot that stuff too with students. And after we spend second semester junior year and a bunch of time during first semester of senior year in SCORE, we often arrive at the actual applying process to college or a job, and we do our absolute best to provide as much review and feedback as we can during that process. We also know that students are fortunate to have like you all and family friends and mentors that also are giving their eyes to applications, and that's amazing. We do, though, like truly encourage students to share with us as much as they're comfortable with their Common Apps, their essays, because sometimes we just have niche little insights into maybe what an admissions panel is looking for. So we will spend a lot of time, especially that first chunk of senior year, doing that sort of thing. And if after that whole process, a student is fortunate enough to maybe get an interview with a college or an interview with a job, we love doing the mock interviews. It's kind of fun for us too. We'll sort of talk to a student about like how to dress, how to present themselves, how to answer questions, how to ask questions in an interview, all of those little things that you wouldn't know your first time going into any interview. And last but definitely not least, the financial aid process. We're all super mindful that it's a critical thing to think about when we're thinking about life after high school. So anything we can do to aid the financial aid processes, we will, connecting to resources, connecting to scholarships, just weighing options, all that sort of stuff. So that's a super quick snapshot of everything we do, more or less. And I believe I am now handing it over to Ms. Jen Moeller, College and Career. All right.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jen Moeller, one of the College and Career Counselors here at Newton North. Just to give a brief overview on the College and Career Center, which is new to you all as juniors. Here at North, we're very fortunate. We have a unique model where in addition to every student being assigned a school counselor, students starting in the second semester of their junior year have the ability to meet with college and career counselors as well. College and career counselors, we meet with students individually to help with preparation for life after high school, whatever that may be, whether they know at this point of high school or not. These meetings can include a variety of things, such as building a list of colleges to research, talking about the differences of standardized testing, working on the Common App, and much more. We work collaboratively with our students' school counselors so that the student is supported fully throughout this process. There are 3 part-time college and career counselors here at North, myself, Jillian Hall, and Val Young. Students, we all have different schedules, so when you do make an appointment, just be sure to check all 3 to find a time that works best for you and your schedule. I will say this in front of your parents as well, you cannot miss class to meet with us. I know some of you try. Email us, we'll work with you, we will find a time, but please don't put us in the position of having your teachers think you're skipping their class. Our calendars can be found in the College and Career Center, room 110, right around the corner from the main office, and also in that information for class of 2027 Google Doc that Beth shared earlier. Parents, you are always welcome to attend these meetings with your student. The student just needs to be present, but you're always encouraged to come if you're able to and want to. And like I said, if you ever have trouble finding a time, just communicate with us, reach out, we'll make it work. As Beth previously mentioned, we have a lot of great resources for students as they begin this planning process for their post-secondary career. I strongly recommend checking out that info for class of 2027 Google Doc. That's going to be the most up-to-date information that we have for you all. And then the Newton North College Planning Guide is just a great comprehensive resource that really walks through this process step by step. In addition, we also have college representatives come in throughout the school year to meet with our students. That'll start happening in mid-March for the spring. And then we also have visitors in the fall. Most of these will be during either wind block or a lunch period. Juniors, you have us to support you for your future plans and your remaining time at North. And like I said, this does not need to include college. It can be military, gap year, trade school. It can be, I don't know yet, but someone told me to make this meeting. Whatever that is, we're here to help support you in addition to your school counselor every step of the way. In addition, I'll briefly touch on, I know this feels like it's a long way away, but there are a lot of different ways to apply to college. So I think it's good to hear about these early on so you can start to reflect on, what may ultimately be a good path for you should college be the way. Of these listed up here, the 3 most common are going to be regular decision, early decision, and early action. So I'll briefly touch on those, starting with regular decision, which for many of you who went to college more than 10, 15 years ago, regular decision for a long time was the only option. It is the college's regular deadline. Students apply usually early to mid-January, receive a decision in March. You don't have to commit. You have until May 1st of your senior year to commit to a school you were accepted to through regular decision. Next is early action, which I think in the last 10 years has increasingly become probably the most popular option. Early action looks very similar to regular decision. It's just the timeline that differs. So rather than applying in January, many colleges, some of whom you'll hear from in a little bit, offer an early application deadline, which means the student applies earlier in the fall, often November, but there's sneaky a couple of October ones in there as well. Then you receive a decision December, January. Again, a non-binding, non-committing option where you have until May 1st, your senior year, to make a final decision. I know you'll see this early action restrictive up there. I won't spend a ton of time on that because it's getting a little too into the nitty-gritty with this. There are a very small, very, very selective group of schools that utilize this option where essentially it restricts where you can apply otherwise. Most of the time, early action, regular decision, there's no limitations on what you can do with your other applications. Meet with us individually. If you have a school in that boat, we will go over it, but I won't bore you with those details now. And then the one I want to spend slightly more time is early decision because I think that one gets talked about a lot. Everyone says everyone does early decision. You have to do early decision. Not true. It is a popular option, but it is not necessarily the right option for every student. So just to go over what early decision means. Early decision is when at the time of submission in November, the student, a parent or guardian, and the student's school counselor sign a contract agreeing that if that student is admitted to that school under early decision, that student will attend that university and also withdraw all other outstanding applications. It's a big commitment. Don't feel like you need to decide right now that you want to do early decision, but know that that is an option. Many schools have also added an additional early decision option in January. It's a lot of time to think about it, and students, if you find a school that you're like, this is where I want to commit, great. Our advice is usually make sure you visit. You'd be surprised how many people want to commit to a place they've never seen. Don't do that. Speak with your school counselor. There are a lot of financial implications about this, and there's a contract involved. And yes, definitely talk to your parents. So again, these are all options. You don't need to be worrying about picking any of these now, but I just want you to get familiar with the verbiage. Just to briefly talk about the other two, they're less common, but you may see them. Rolling admission is just the college doesn't have a set deadline. You apply, in about 4 to 6 weeks, they'll give you an answer. It's a great option, but it's not as frequent. And then open admission is simply if you graduate high school or have a GED, you're going to get accepted. So that's a great option as well. These are all terms you'll start to hear over the next couple months, and you will hear them again in your junior seminars, in your meetings with your school counselors, with your college and career counselors, but just things to start thinking about as you see different universities. And with that, I will turn things over to Nancy Dakota to talk about recommendation letters.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nancy Dakota. I'm going to talk to you about teacher recommendations, and I'm going to touch on a little more detail on the counselor statements. So starting March 3rd, it's because I'm short. It's okay. I'm used to it. And I have heels on. Doesn't help. Anyway, so I'm going to talk to you about teacher recommendations and a little more detail on the counselor statement. So teacher recommendations, the window opens up on Monday, March 30th, and it runs through Thursday, April 16th. So there's a nice chunk of time to get the recommendations done. During this time, all juniors should be reaching out to 2 of their current junior year teachers to request these letters of recommendations. These letters, just so you know, are confidential, and teachers in these letters are not only writing about a student's academic performance, but also about their character, contributions to the school community, and just their personal interests. It is the student's responsibility to understand how many recommendations are required and what types colleges are asking for. For example, if you have a student who's planning to major, let's say, engineering, they're probably going to want a recommendation from a math or science teacher. So you have your students check in with one of the college counselors, with their school counselor, and we can help guide them as well as who they should be asking for letters of recommendation. Also, when deciding what teachers to ask, students should think beyond just the classes where they've earned the highest grades. A course that was challenging, but also where students met regularly with the teacher and demonstrated consistent effort, an example of initiative and perseverance. Students enrolled of one of our CTE programs should also consider requesting recommendations from a CTE teacher, as these teachers work with students over multiple years and can speak thoughtfully about their growth and development in their classes. Also, if there's any chance that your child will be applying early decision or early action, like Ms. Moeller just went over, they must secure a commitment letter from their teacher or teachers this spring, which allows the teacher adequate time to plan and write thoughtful letters. And now the school counselor statements. So I know Sarah Juarez was talking about school counselor statements. Like the teacher recommendations, these are also kept confidential, and they're submitted not just to the college admission offices, but employers, military branches, other postgraduate programs. So we're writing for everybody. It's not just the kids who are thinking, college is on the horizon after they graduate. In order for us to write those, students will need to complete their junior future planning survey in SCORE. This will be introduced to them during their junior seminars in May. So not this round of seminars, but the one coming up in the spring. We'll introduce that to them, and they will be able to complete that over the course of the spring. Sometimes they complete it in the fall. It just needs to be completed for us to be able to write our statement for them. These statements provide context about a student's academic profile, explaining any extenuating circumstances, and they also include our professional impressions of the student. So in addition to filling out the future planning survey, it's also about how well we've gotten to know your students during their time here. And when we have our junior meetings with them this year, and we'll have senior meetings with them in September next year. So it's kind of a little bit of everything, and we'll talk through, if there's a blip on the transcript in a class. Again, if there's an extenuating circumstance, something happened outside of school that affected something in school, we're going to write about that so colleges get a bigger picture of kind of what's going on during the students' 4 years at North. And now I'm going to introduce Belma Johnson, who's going to chat with you about the registration process.
Okay, we're almost there. Promise. I'm going to talk about the course registration process. The opportunities book is will be available online like after the February break. This will be one where you can take a look at the courses and just make sure that you be mindful about it. And in February is when the teachers will start talking about courses for next year. And then also it will go through April 6th. Now it's important to think about balance. We will meet with the students about balance. Of course, you do want to challenge yourself, but you also don't want it to overtake your life. Like you want to have a good experience, and you want to be able to be mindful about what your future plans are as you're choosing your courses going into senior year. So it's important to speak with your teachers, your parents, your guardians, and counselors. We're here for you, and we're able to meet with you. We will try to meet with every student as they need. And then as far as just researching the courses, talk to siblings, talk to teachers, ask us questions. It is really an important process, and we put a lot of work into that. And so we want you to be mindful of, and as juniors, right, it's really tough to change around your schedule or drop a course. So please take this part of it seriously. As far as the teacher process goes, there will be times where they'll check in with you, and they will suggest recommendations. Now, if it's good to talk to them about the level changes at this time. If you're thinking of leveling up, staying the same, that's the discussion. That's the time that you should talk about it. If you're deciding not to take a certain course next year, that's the conversation as well as talking to your family. After the meetings, the teachers, actually, I think I'm going to go to this next slide here. This is kind of the course registration timeline. So teachers will talk to students in and around January, February through March, and then students will actually request electives and PE and Aspen. So you have a time frame of March 3rd through March 10th, all the while you have access to us as counselors. Then the counselors will take a look and review the course request. We may call you in and say, hey, I noticed that something's missing, or I noticed that this level's in here, or if you have questions, it's in and out. Like a lot of us have QR codes on our door, just, sign up for a time. We'll have seminars as well coming up, and so that's another time. Then students, there's a verification period, and the last possible time is April 6th. That's a hard deadline. I know a lot of students, as juniors, you're taking a look at some of the courses that you're considering because maybe you visited a college. Oftentimes they'll come after that fact. It's really hard to change any courses after that. So if you're doing any kind of research of the colleges and what they expect as far as courses, I would suggest doing that in and around this time up until the last possible date of April 6th is the hard line. We have you sign, make sure that your courses are in order. So that's basically the timeline there. Like I said, it's an important process, so please make sure to make an appointment with us. We've been doing this a long time. We often know all the different nuances that go into the course registration. I'm going to back up. So just consider the also just kind of a balance, the emotional. Think of this year. What were you able to handle? Stress level. Where did you just take one too many upper level courses? Think about that going into senior year. That's a year that you have a little bit of flexibility. So, we're here to help you move into the next process. And April 6th, I can't reiterate that enough, is April 6th is the verification day. All right. I think Beth.
Yep, I'm going to come back in. Thank you. Okay. All right. So we're going to pivot and head into another phase. But as we wrap up what the different types of topics that we talked about, taking into consideration what is important, the course registration, research, visits and interviews. You'll probably hear a little bit more about that, but we have some upcoming vacations, right? February and April and all that kind of fun stuff, affordability and special considerations, because we want to highlight the talents that so many of our students do in and out of the classroom. So as we go through this, it is a journey, and we're all on it with you, okay, every step of the way. And then what's going to happen is you're now going to hear from a bunch of other professionals on the other side of the aisle. But I'm going to introduce Valerie Young, who is also one of our college and career counselors with us this year. And she's going to take you to the next phase of this evening. Valerie? All right.
I have a cast with me.
Are you going to? All right.
Sure, why not?
We can give them both.
They can use both?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And then here are, careful.
You have to share.
And there's some water and little chips. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Valerie Young, and along with Jillian Hall and Jen Muller, I'm one of the college and career counselors here at North. And the final part of tonight's program is a question and answer about the college admissions process. And we are thrilled to have 4 true experts with us tonight. In a moment, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, and then we have a number of questions that we have prepared for them. If time permits, we will open the floor to questions that you might also have. We hope that hearing directly from the people who will be reading your applications will give you helpful information. I don't know what I just did there. And provide some guidance and reassurance as you begin to think about your own search. They are the ones who will eventually read and then make decisions on your applications. However, and this is really important that you understand this, they are eager to help you discern if their schools are a good match for you. And this, above all, is the most important thing. It is something that we all agree on. So, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, and then we'll begin the Q&A. Whoever has the mic.
Good evening. Laura Robitaille. I am the Senior Manager of Regional Recruitment for the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Oh, really? They know the first lesson, which is to applaud for the admissions people. So we're in good shape here. I'm Drew Carter, and I work in the Office of Admission at Holy Cross. Awesome.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Gurton. I'm the Director of Northeast Recruitment for Dickinson College.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ryan Kelly. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, the flagship institution of the University of Massachusetts.
Okay, there are a number of questions that I will ask all of you to answer, and then we'll some questions that if the spirit so moves, one of you can start off and another can jump in if you need to, okay? So can you each tell us all the parts of a completed application at your school? Go ahead, Ryan.
I'll take lead with this one. So completed application at UMass, so we're going to look at things such as your transcript, SAT, ACT, we're going to get into that a little bit later, but truly test optional at the University of Massachusetts. We have 3 UMass-specific questions when you apply, so why UMass, why you chose the majors that you did, a question about your community, all of those about 150 words or less, the Common App essay, extracurriculars, basically everything you send us is going to be looked at when you applied, but biggest things, letter of recommendation, Common App essay, transcript, SAT, ACT, we're going to get into that later, but optional at UMass.
Okay. At Dickinson, we are a member of both the Common Application and the Coalition App, so you can submit either one. We do have 3 supplemental questions, and you're going to hear me right. They are 50-word responses, so very, very short. Yes, and one asks students, what could you talk about endlessly? Another one asks, what qualities are you most proud of about yourself? And the other is something that you would do or that you long to do or have thought about doing that might surprise your friends or family. And what's actually really fun about that, before we launched those questions, that's a new thing this year, all of us on our staff answered those questions. And so we know how challenging it is not only to come up with an answer, but to do it so succinctly. And it has been amazing. I'll just plug how much we've learned about students in those answers. We are totally test optional. If you send scores, we'll look at them. If you don't, we're not thinking about them. We require a counselor recommendation and a teacher recommendation. Interviews are optional, but encouraged.
Okay. We're at Holy Cross very similar to Dickinson, Common App, Coalition App, counselor recommendation, teacher recommendation, no supplemental essays. You're welcome. But we do strongly recommend, I'm going to put that in quotation marks, strongly recommend interviews as part of our admissions process, which I know seems scary when you're a high school junior, but trust me, it's just a conversation with somebody who's surprisingly friendly, and it's over before you know it. They learn about you, you learn about the school. And we, like you've heard already tonight, we're test optional too. And for us, that's a completed application.
So, this light. Hello, hello.
Try again. There we go. Yeah. All right. Welcome. So at Wisconsin, we're a little bit different in that we have our own application or the Common App. The big difference is our own application, that essay prompt is open, so you can do anything you want, which is really interesting. If none of the prompts on the Common App appeal to you, write about anything else if you want to use the Wisconsin app. Everything that you need on the Common App is what we're looking for. Letters of recommendation, we only need one academic letter of recommendation. I will share that someone last year did send in their 5th grade math teacher letter of recommendation. We need something a little more current. Yeah, I think you get the gist. Also, don't send 27. That's a bad thing, too. Follow the directions. 1, 2, 3, maybe, that's fine, but please don't send 27. Doesn't tell us anything new about you, usually. And then essay-wise, I mentioned the Common App or our own application. In addition to that, we do have a Why Wisconsin app, but it is Why Wisconsin and Why Your Major, both in one essay. So you have plenty of room to write. You're not limited to 50 or 100 words. You can write all you want. Couple things about that I will share with you because you're here tonight. You get a little insight. One thing at Wisconsin that we live by is something called the Wisconsin idea. You will have to look that up. I'm not going to give you all the tips and tricks tonight, but the Wisconsin idea hopefully is something that will resonate with you. It will help you decide if it is the right fit for you, if that Wisconsin idea resonates with you. And what we'd like to see in Why Wisconsin is how that resonates with you. So if you write about that, it could give you an advantage.
Great, thank you. Could you all talk a little bit about the transcript and the GPA and what it means to recalculate the GPA and how you look at the transcript?
I'll take this one from the start. So transcript, biggest thing to look at there, we're going to look at things such as if you're taking honors classes, if you're taking AP classes, those will get more weight than a regular college prep class, for instance. GPA, biggest thing to note, we are going to recalculate it at UMass. So as I said, you're going to get more points for honors classes, AP classes, that kind of thing. But people are going to throw around things such as unweighted GPA versus weighted GPA. I believe Newton North, everything is weighted GPA, unweighted GPA here at Newton North. Biggest thing to note there, transcript over everything else. I just recommend we're going to take a big look at that. We're going to rescale it to our standards.
Sure. I would say, well, first of all, at Dickinson, we don't have an average GPA, and we don't recalculate a GPA. And that is because every single high school out there is totally different, right? The curriculum available to students school to school is different. The level of rigor overall at a high school can be different. Those learning expectations, how students are assessed, different. So we really get to know the schools that we work with. And for counselors on our staff who don't know the schools they're working with as well, maybe they're newer, every high school sends a school profile along that shares that information about the learning environment at that school, what the curriculum looks like, what students can take advantage of, all of those pieces. So we can kind of take a look at a transcript, see the classes a student's taken, understand here are their grades, but what does that mean? And then go kind of line by line. So we look really closely at a transcript. We review a student within the context of the school that they attend. And I would say we're looking for students who are challenging themselves, but challenging themselves in a way that makes sense for them as a student, right? Not everybody can take every highest level class out there. We also want you to be really engaged community members too, right? So understanding that you are challenging yourself in a way that makes sense for you is really important to us.
I think the only piece I have to add is just this perspective that when colleges look at your transcript as a part of your application, every school is going to look at maybe 3 years, right? 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. Some schools will look at the fall of 12th grade, whether it's the first quarter or first semester. And they're going to look at the entirety of the academic work that you've produced in high school, comma. Everyone in this theater knows that the student who shows up on our campus, the student who's taking classes as a first-year student, most closely resembles the student that we see at the end of the transcript. So while everything matters to us on your transcript, we're always going to lean in the direction of what we see at the end of the transcript. And the good news is, for you, right, high school juniors, that part is blank, right? The effort and energy that you put into the classroom this spring and next fall is the sort of the lingering, powerful aftertaste to your transcript. And you know, sometimes aftertastes are delicious, but sometimes they're not so great. But you control that. So anything behind you on the transcript, whether it was that like disappointing grade in Spanish sophomore year or that unfortunate grade in math freshman year, it matters to us, but it doesn't matter to you anymore. What matters to you is the road ahead, right? You control that momentum, that aftertaste to your transcript. Focus on the road ahead because we know that's the student who's going to show up on our campus.
I'm going to follow up on exactly that point. Drew is right. Kate, absolutely. Those are definitely, I agree with all of my colleagues here. As far as if there is something in the past, I would suggest you use on the Common App, there's a space called additional information. I highly suggest you, as a student, identify what that was. Tell us a little bit. Tell us your story. Don't rely on a letter of recommendation or someone else to tell us a story, and don't leave us guessing. Maybe there was a dip and there's a reason, right? And that's okay. Just tell us what it is so that we have some context of what's happening in your life or what did happen in your life, and we can see that progression, and we can see that, you know, okay, you overcame it and you're moving forward, and this resembles the student you really are. So, you know, if not, we're left to guess. So use the space. Additionally, I would say if you're applying to certain majors, you may have colleges looking at certain courses, classes, you know, making sure your math and sciences are high if you're looking at, you know, anything in the medical field or engineering or business. We may be looking closely at those classes and those grades. We might dive into your humanities a little bit more if you're looking at political science, if you're looking at things like, you know, even philosophy or psychology, things like that. So we might be looking a little bit deeper at some of the classes that you have based on the major that you are applying to. And also some programs, I'm not sure if you've gotten into this yet in your search of colleges, but some programs you may be applying to may be direct admit programs. So those direct admit programs, like sometimes it's nursing, sometimes it's engineering, sometimes it's computer science or business, those could be more competitive, and we look for higher rigor, which means, higher level classes, because when you get there, as you heard, we want to make sure that you can perform in the classroom, right? That you won't be overwhelmed. Obviously, you have resources. If you are overwhelmed, if you need help, we're there to help you. But we want to make sure that you can handle the workload.
Excellent, thank you. Testing policies, which feels a little murky these days. What does test optional mean? Should I send my scores? Should I not send my scores? You only get in if you send your scores. I need to have a 1500 in order to send my scores. Can somebody speak to testing policy and what it means to be test optional at your college or university?
I'll start with this one because I know I already kind of mentioned it earlier, but at UMass, truly test optional at the university. The majority of our applications don't send in test scores. If you're wondering if you shouldn't send in test scores, I always recommend considering talking to your counselor. You can always reach out to the admissions staff. We're happy to guide you in any way, but truly test optional. Majority of our applicants do not send in test scores. With that being said, if you send them in, they can enhance you. If you don't send them in, by any means, it's not going to hurt you. So majority of our applicants don't send in test scores. If you send them in, they can help you. If you don't send them in, by any means, is it not going to hurt you, for instance, if that makes sense.
They're all test optional. University of Wisconsin-Madison has been test optional, but for your class, we are undecided. We have not made that, or the Board of Regents has not come down and given us the thumbs up or thumbs down on this decision yet. We expect it soon. I can't give you a date. Unfortunately, I don't have that, but check the website always. I will say if we are test optional, truly test optional like you heard. If we are not, then it means you need to send it. Policy, my philosophy, I guess, is better to have it and not need it than not take it and need it. So probably a good thing to just have in your back pocket as we're seeing some changes. You heard Valerie say this. We are seeing some changes across the country with colleges making a test required option.
Nothing, Drew?
I mean, all I'll say is you probably have read those articles about those schools who are returning to requiring testing. You probably have not read the article about the thousands of schools who are still test optional. Right. It's over 90% of colleges and universities in the U.S. are test optional. I think I work at a test optional school. I think you should take the test. I think you should take the ACT as well as a Midwesterner. Let me just say, you New Englanders are nutso. The rest of the country has figured out that the ACT is a great test. I think that's what you just surpassed. Yeah, finally, yeah. But be open to the idea that the ACT could be a great test for you as well. But truly, like it can be a strength in your application if it would be a strength in your application. It's a great conversation to have with your school counselor, but there should be no pressure behind this because there are thousands of wonderful schools out there that will not require testing.
Okay. College essay. What do you look for in a college essay? Do you have examples of essays that are particularly memorable for you, and topics that you recommend staying away from?
right. I'm happy to kick us off here. The purpose of the essay is to get to know you, right, and to learn about you. I should read an essay and at the end be able to say, oh, here's what I learned about the student. So my advice always is to, at every stage of the essay drafting process, right, as you're brainstorming, making lists, journaling, thinking through ideas, as you narrow that down, you're drafting your essay, you're getting it closer, you get to the point where you have a finished draft. That entire time, you should be saying to yourself, what do I want the reader to know about me? The answer to that question should be what you set out for when you finish your essay, right? That there is an answer to that question when we're done reading it. Draft the essay. Hand it to someone to read. Turn to that person and say, what'd you learn about me? Their answer to that question should be exactly what you have intended that answer to be, right? The purpose is not, we get the question a lot, what should we be writing about? What shouldn't we? Because everybody writes about this topic. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's how you write it, right? It doesn't matter what the topic is because we're going to learn something about you. Nobody else could have written this essay but you. That's where we'll start here. Anyone want to jump in?
Kate says everything I like to say, so listen to her for sure. One thing I do like to add is sometimes it is hard to just start, right? It's a different way of writing. It's not reviewing a book and writing, like you do in class. And you're vulnerable. You're talking about yourself. You're thinking about yourself. You're reflecting on different moments in your life. And that can be hard sometimes when you have life going on and it's busy all around you. So my suggestion to you is just sit down and write. Just let it flow onto the paper or, type it in. Don't do it on your phone. Don't do it on your phone. It really does not give you an advantage. But write. I think physically handwriting actually, it actually brings out something different. And then you can type it up for sure. But, I think starting the process, just start the process, and you will be able to eliminate things and refine it for sure, as you mentioned, all the drafts. I would also say if you are writing about someone or an event, a grandparent, anyone influential in your life, it's wonderful that we get to know them, but we're not trying to get to know them. We're trying to get to know you. We're not trying to admit them to college. We're trying to admit you to college. And there are so many grandparents that I really wish could come to our school. But it really is, as Kate said, the object of the essay is for us to get to know you. We don't conduct interviews. It is your only chance to speak in your voice, in your tell us your story. So don't squander that opportunity, really.
I think you're going to get a lot of advice about the essay between now and next fall, and 99% of it is garbage because it's people who don't have a clue. It's people online. It's people on the sidelines at the soccer game.
Yeah.
It's your uncle at Thanksgiving. He knows for sure what you should write your essay about. The only people who really know are people who work in college admissions and school counselors. They're the only people.
And your English teachers.
And your English teachers this spring when you're working on that writing. Even better are school counselors who are former English teachers. That's even better. Anyway, and the point is that there's so much talk about the essay, it is not going to make or break your application. It's not. It's worthy of your best effort, but it is not the most important part of your application. Your academic profile is the most important part. But I will say, for many of us who work in admissions, the essay is our favorite part to read. Doesn't mean it's the most important part, but a quick anecdote. Between the hours of like 6:30 in the morning and about 8:15, I move my application reading from my office at home. I'm a morning guy, did you know? I move my application reading, bring my laptop out into the kitchen at home because I'm helping to make lunches and breakfasts for the kids, and in the hustle and bustle. And this is about a week ago, it was last week, my 10-year-old daughter came into the kitchen while I was working on an application. And she said, "You must be reading an essay." And I said, "How did you know?" And she said, "Well, you're leaning back in your chair." Because she's right. The truth is, when we're reading an application, it's like there's data entry, there's this, it's kind of like math homework. You're kind of semi-focused, hunched over, and there's tabbing and there's typing, and then you get to the essay, and you scooch back, and you relax. So if nothing else, I hope you remember this visual, because you are writing for somebody who's legitimately excited to read what you have to write.
I go through it and I'll do all the other parts, and then I get to the essay. I'm like, okay, talk to me, Joe. Tell me your story. Come on, Joe. I can't wait to hear, what you have to say. And you heard it. Like it is a special part where we do get to know you.
I am actually a member of the English department, and I say that because I know that since 9th grade you have been developing a portfolio. So you have a body of work already that you should reference, that you should use to begin this important piece of writing. Maybe there's an idea that you couldn't develop, you didn't have time. Maybe there's one beautiful sentence that your teacher loved that could be the opening of your college essay. So you already have started your story. So I just want to remind you. Of that you've got a starting point already, and I'm feeling like we're at time. 2 more questions? Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to give. Okay.
We'll take 1 or 2 questions. I see one hand way over here. Questions about AI?
I'll start. I recommend, as we said earlier, please write your own essay. You can use AI to enhance it. As someone who uses AI every day because I'm addicted to it, it's great, but it also, everybody knows the semicolons, all of that kind of stuff. I recommend write your own essays. You have some great counselors here. The English department, unbelievable. Use AI to, explore ideas, all that kind of stuff. But I recommend write your own essays just because it's going to help you. That's how we're going to get to know you. As much as I love reading stuff from ChatGPT, I'd much rather read from you.
I'll just say I was at an event in the fall, and a student came up. It was at a college fair. Kate was there too. And a student came up and asked me a question about what AI we might be using to read essays. And it was a question out of fear. And I said, well, what AI are you using to write your essay? And we had this stare down for a minute. And eventually the awkward moment was broken, and we sort of mutually agreed, I won't use AI to read your essay if you don't use it to write your essay. And we had a nice moment. And I think there are tools out there to write the essay. There's tools out, trust me, there's AI tools to read your essay. But none of them are great. It doesn't write a great essay, and it doesn't read a great essay. Your best essay is your voice, and the best read of your essay comes from a human.
Yeah, and I'll just say we don't use any technology. We aren't feeding essays through anything. But I will say that anything written with AI tends to lack emotional connection. And when you think about when we're reading an essay where we're learning something about you, when we don't get that, when that's lost, it might be a beautifully written essay, but when that's lost, whether it's because the student didn't do it or because it's AI, that's not helpful, right? There's something that's lost when there's not emotion and connection. And I do think sometimes that happens with AI. And so just, that's something I just caution.
Hi. So my question is that apart from the teacher and school counselor recommendations, a student might have worked with someone outside the school, some academician or some leader in some other field on a project that's not part of the school, but he or she did it on his or her own. And that person wants to recommend the student. Now, how can that be additionally reflected in the college application, apart from the school recommendations?
I can start off with that one. So at UMass, we take up to 3 letters of recommendation. We require 1, but we'll take up to 3. 1 has to be an academic source, so coming from either a counselor or a teacher. But the other 2 could come from anywhere you can get a recommendation from if you want to send it in. So if you do research maybe at like an institution, if you work a job part-time, anything like that, if someone wants to give you a letter of recommendation, we'll take up to 3. So wherever you want to get it from, totally fair game. Just 1 has to be academic, coming from a counselor or a teacher.
My daughter said it has to be a good question. It better be a good question. In any case, so there was a comment there that essay is not the most important part of an application. What is the most important part of an application? Maybe for each of you, like super quickly. Thank you.
I'll start off just to make this quickly. I'm sure everybody's going to say something similar. It's a holistic review process, so everything is truly important. Essay, letters of recommendation, transcript, everything's equally valued. It's not just one thing. We're looking at, as someone who reads the essays and everything, every single thing you write down is truly looked at and considered in the full holistic review process.
Truly, the academics is the most important. We have to be able to admit students we know can do the work. Beyond that, and a lot of students apply, more than we can admit who can do the work. So it goes beyond that in identifying who's gonna love it here, who's gonna be so happy, and who's gonna love it here. Because we also wanna build a community of people who are super happy to be there, right? And so it comes with, as this started, identifying schools that are gonna be a good match for you, both academically, figure that piece out, and there are ways to kind of peel back the layers to get deeper into understanding good academic fit, but also, am I gonna be happy here? What are the feelings I'm having? Why do I wanna come here? There should be an answer to that, if you're never asked that from a school, why XYZ college? It shouldn't matter. You all should have a strong answer to that question. And if you can answer that, you yourself, not anything you've read, your feelings, what resonates for you, all of that, then likely that's gonna come through on our end too. The goals here are the same. You wanna be admitted and enroll at places, you're gonna do the work and be happy, and that's exactly what we're looking for on our end.
I am really grateful for you to take a night in January to come visit us and answer questions. We can give them a round of applause. This is really nice. This is the beginning of the journey. We are here with you to support you. One thing I was realizing, this class, you actually had the largest number of new students this year from all of 4 of our classes. A lot of you came from private schools. You are welcome. We are glad you're here. And we know that this might be the first time you're meeting your school counselor, first time with course selection. So it's important, it's okay to reach out to your counselor now, ask your questions, ask for help. And for all of you, feel free to ask us questions. Again, this is the beginning of the journey. So we know a lot of questions will be coming along the way. So thanks again. Thank you to the counselors. Thank you all. Have a great night.